No, Joe said sharply. We can do all the riding that's got to be done.
Barone glared at his son. The old dog is still running this outfit, he bellowed. Not the pups. He turned to Staley. How about it, Walt?
I ain't looking for that kind of a job, Staley said carefully. I'll know what I want to do when I get to the fort. Several things ought to be opening up this time of year. Tally brought the coffee pot, filled the cups again, and took the pot back to the stove. She moved gracefully, without making a sound.
Yeah, I reckon you ought to find something you want, Barone said. I never figured you being too particular.
No, not as long as the pay is good and there's enough of a risk to make it interesting, Staley said. Barone slurped his coffee and put his cup down.
Since you was here last fall, a hog ranch has started up between here and the fort. A woman calling herself Madame Fifi brought some girls up from Cheyenne. She's bigger'n a buffalo cow, but her girls ain't so bad. She's got one pretty little heifer she calls Christine. Claims the girl's her niece. Maybe she is. All I know is none of the men get into bed with her.
And they all try, Staley said.
Barone guffawed. Sure they do. But you can bet they ain't getting past Madame Fifi.
Tally had returned to her chair. She sat down, her gaze on her empty plate. She had gone to school in Cheyenne, coming back to stay only after her mother died, so she knew how civilized people lived and how they talked in front of their women. Now she was embarrassed because she knew that Staley knew. Anything else between here and the fort? Staley asked to change the subject.
Yeah, there's an Army hay camp on the north prong of Squaw Creek, Barone said. They must have put up 300 tons of hay last summer. They haul it to the fort when they need it. I guess they got 6, 8 men there.
The old man rose.
Saddle up, boys. Time we was moving out.
He turned to Staley, who was on his feet.
I don't ride as well as I used to, but I want to see if I got any horses left.
You're a good cook, Tally, Staley said. Thanks for the dinner. You're welcome, Tally said, her gaze still on her plate. Both boys remained on the bench, acting as if they hadn't heard their father's order. Barone started toward the back door. Then, realizing the boys hadn't moved, he wheeled back to face them.
Didn't you hear me? He roared. I said saddle up, we're riding.
Both boys stared at him defiantly. Bill said, No, we ain't riding as long as this bastard's in the house with Tally. Barone hit Bill on the mouth with an open palm. The sound of the slap seemed to fill the room, and it knocked Bill to the floor. Barone moved fast for a man of his age. He would have hit Joe if the younger boy hadn't slid off the end of the bench. Joe backed away, right hand on the butt of his gun. Barone said, Get your hand off that iron before I take it away from you and ram it down your throat. Then get out to the corral and saddle up like I told you. Bill came to his feet, blood trickling down his chin from the corner of his mouth. For a moment the boys stood motionless, facing their father, their dark eyes hot with rage. Then, without a word, they strode toward the back door. Barone watched them until the door closed, then took a deep breath. It's been a long time since I whooped 'em, but I'm gonna have to do it again. I'll be riding, Staley said. No use making 'em any madder at me than they are. They got no call to get mad at you, Barone said. I don't know what's got into them. For just a moment, Staley's gaze touched Tally's face while Barone was still glaring at the back door. She glanced up and whispered, Wait for me. He nodded and left the room. Barone followed him. Outside, Barone said, I tell you, Walt, these are bad days when your own boys want to turn Injun. I told 'em I'd kill 'em if they done it, but I don't figure that's going to stop 'em.